Do you know how a young religious sister, weakened by an incurable illness, carried silent hope to Lourdes when medicine had already spoken its final word there? Far from crowds and certainty, a hidden moment unfolded where prayer met water, suffering met trust, and a fragile life stood quietly before God in Lourdes, France. What followed challenged science, demanded patience, and invited the Church to listen carefully as truth emerged slowly over years with humility. The Lourdes miracle of Sister Julienne. Before beginning, drop an Ave Maria in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more stories of Our Lady. Don't forget to share it so others may discover this story and be inspired to live holier lives. Chapter 1. A Hidden Life. Aline Bruyère was born in 1,864 inches, the small village of La Roque, France, into a simple and devout Catholic family. Her early years unfolded far from the centers of influence or recognition, shaped instead by prayer, work, and quiet faith. Nothing in her origins suggested an extraordinary destiny. She belonged to the countless ordinary believers whose lives are woven gently into the daily rhythm of the Church. From an early age, Aline felt drawn toward consecrated life. She did not seek distinction or achievement, but desired to give herself wholly to God through humility and service. Entering religious life, she embraced obedience and simplicity, accepting the hidden sacrifices of community life. Her vocation matured quietly, sustained by fidelity rather than enthusiasm, and marked by a steady willingness to offer her days to God without drawing attention to herself. Her life as a religious sister was not remarkable by outward standards. She held no prominent office, left no writings, and performed no public works that would attract notice. Her days were filled with prayer, routine duties, and patient perseverance. Like many consecrated souls, she lived in the background, faithful in small things, believing that God sees what remains unseen by the world. The time in which she lived was marked by suffering and uncertainty. In the late 19th century, France faced recurring epidemics, and tuberculosis spread fear across cities and villages alike. Medical knowledge remained limited, and many families watched loved ones weaken without hope of cure. Illness was not an exception, but a constant presence, reminding people daily of human fragility and the nearness of death. Amid this suffering, devotion to Our Lady of Lourdes grew steadily after the apparitions of 1858. The shrine became a place where the sick, the poor, and the forgotten gathered in hope. Lourdes was known not for spectacle, but for prayer, penance, and trust in God. For many believers, Mary's presence there offered consolation rather than certainty of healing. Within this broader spiritual landscape, Aline Bruyère continued her religious life in silence. She was not among those whose names circulated in pilgrim accounts or devotional stories. Her faith matured away from crowds, shaped by ordinary fidelity and quiet endurance. Nothing outward distinguished her path from that of countless other sisters who served God faithfully without ever expecting recognition. This story, therefore, does not begin with a miracle, nor with a dramatic turning point. It begins with a hidden life, patiently offered day after day. Before any healing was known or examined, there was first a woman who lived her vocation with trust. Her faith was already formed long before grace would one day touch her in an unexpected way. Chapter 2. An Incurable Illness. Aline Bruyère was soon struck by cavitating pulmonary tuberculosis, one of the most severe and feared illnesses of her time. This form of the disease slowly consumed the lungs, weakened the body, and offered little hope of recovery. In the 19th century, such a diagnosis often meant prolonged suffering followed by death. Illness entered her life quietly, yet with relentless force, altering every rhythm of her daily existence. Medical examinations confirmed what was already evident. The disease had reached an advanced stage, and available treatments offered no real possibility of healing. Doctors spoke honestly and without false reassurance. Human knowledge had reached its limit. For Aline, these words carried both clarity and sorrow. They marked the moment when medicine stepped back, leaving her face to face with her own fragility and an uncertain future. As weeks passed, her physical strength declined rapidly. Breathing became labored. Simple movements, exhausting. Tasks once ordinary now required effort and patience. Her body grew thin, her voice weaker, her nights restless. Each day demanded courage merely to endure. The illness did not strike suddenly, but steadily drained her strength, teaching her the humility of dependence and the vulnerability of the human condition. At only 25 years of age, she was regarded as approaching the end of her life. Those around her no longer spoke of plans or recovery, but of preparation and acceptance. Youth, which should have promised years of service and growth, seemed overshadowed by finality. Yet within this grim assessment, her faith was quietly being refined, even as her body continued to fail. Faced with suffering, Aline did not rebel in bitterness or despair. Instead, she turned inward toward prayer. Weak as she was, she entrusted each breath to God. Her prayer was simple, often wordless, shaped more by surrender than by requests. Rather than demanding answers, she learned to rest in trust, believing that her life remained held within God's loving providence. In this spirit, she asked permission to make a pilgrimage to Lourdes. Her request was not fueled by expectations of a miracle. She did not seek proof or extraordinary signs. Lourdes represented a place of offering, where pain could be placed into God's hands through Mary's intercession. The journey itself became an act of faith, undertaken with humility rather than certainty. Her illness, therefore, became more than a physical trial. It unfolded as a spiritual purification. Stripped of strength, plans, and control, Aline was led into deeper surrender. Suffering refined her faith, teaching her to hope without conditions. Before any healing would ever be spoken of, her heart was already learning obedience, patience, and trust, quietly shaped by grace in the midst of weakness. Chapter 3. The Day of Healing. On the 1st of September 1889, Aline Bruyère arrived at Lourdes in a condition of extreme physical weakness. Her illness had drained nearly all her strength, and even standing required great effort. She came not as someone confident of recovery, but as a woman already resigned to suffering. Like many pilgrims before her, she carried her pain quietly, trusting that whatever awaited her would unfold according to God's will rather than her own hopes. Despite her fragile state, Aline joined the prayers offered for the sick at the sanctuary. These moments were marked by reverence and simplicity, not by emotional excess. Surrounded by others who carried visible wounds and hidden fears, she became part of a larger community of suffering. The prayers did not promise healing. They invited surrender, repentance, and trust, directing hearts gently toward God rather than toward extraordinary expectations. The moment of healing occurred when Aline bathed in the waters of Lourdes. These waters, long associated with prayer and humility, had become a place where countless pilgrims entrusted their suffering to God through Mary's intercession. As she entered the baths, Aline did not ask for a miracle. She entered with the disposition of offering, placing her weakened body and uncertain future into God's hands with quiet obedience. What followed did not resemble a slow or progressive recovery. There was no period of rest, no gradual return of strength, no visible medical process at work. The change came suddenly and decisively. Without warning, the failing body responded in a way that defied natural explanation. The transformation unfolded without noise or attention, yet it marked a clear rupture with everything that had preceded it. The symptoms of cavitating pulmonary tuberculosis disappeared entirely. Breathing became free and unlabored, the crushing fatigue lifted, and strength returned in full. What had been a body marked by decline was suddenly restored. The healing was not partial or temporary, but complete, leaving no trace of the illness that had dominated her life and consumed her strength for so long. There was no public announcement, no emotional display, no attempt to draw attention to what had occurred. The event remained wrapped in silence. Lourdes, faithful to its spirit, did not encourage spectacle. What mattered was not amazement, but truth. The absence of outward drama preserved the seriousness of the moment, allowing space for careful observation and humble gratitude rather than excitement. Thus, the 1st of September, 1889, became more than a personal turning point. It marked the beginning of a long process of discernment and verification. The Church would not rush to judgment. Time would be allowed to test the permanence of the healing. What began quietly at the baths of Lourdes would unfold slowly, guided by patience, reason, and faith, until the truth could be recognized with certainty. Chapter 4. Discerned Truth. The healing of Aline Bruyère was not proclaimed or celebrated immediately. It was first recorded with care and sobriety by the Medical Bureau of Lourdes, whose role is to observe, document, and verify reported healings. Every detail of her condition before and after the 1st of September 1889 was gathered patiently. This initial step ensured that the event would be approached with seriousness, free from emotion or popular enthusiasm, grounded instead in careful observation. Physicians who examined her case confirmed that her illness had been severe and well established. Cavitating pulmonary tuberculosis was recognized as a grave condition, and her prior decline had been clearly documented. The sudden disappearance of symptoms did not correspond to any known medical treatment or recovery process. Faced with this evidence, doctors acknowledged that the healing could not be explained by the medical knowledge available, nor by natural progression of the disease. Time played a decisive role in the discernment. Aline's recovery was not judged solely by its immediacy, but by its permanence. Years passed without relapse, weakness, or lingering effects. Her strength remained stable and her health endured. This lasting restoration distinguished the event from temporary improvement. The absence of recurrence confirmed that the healing was not only sudden, but complete, strengthening the credibility of the case. Once the medical evaluation had reached its conclusions, the file was transmitted to the competent ecclesiastical authority. The Church did not act independently of medical judgment, nor did it replace scientific inquiry. Instead, it received the findings and continued the process with prudence. This step reflected the Church's responsibility to discern not only what happened, but how it should be understood in the light of faith. On the 7th of March, 1912, Bishop Albert Negre of the Diocese of Tulle officially declared the healing of Aline Bruyère to be a miracle. This declaration came more than 20 years after the event itself, underscoring the seriousness of the investigation. The decision was not rushed, but reached only after long reflection, confirming that the Church values truth more than immediacy or acclaim. Such a declaration illustrates the Church's careful approach to miracles. Not every healing is proclaimed, and not every extraordinary event is elevated. Discernment protects the faithful from confusion and preserves the integrity of belief. By proceeding slowly and methodically, The Church ensures that faith rests on solid ground, where reason and trust walk together without contradiction or exaggeration. Ultimately, the miracle recognized in Aline Bruyère's life was not intended to draw attention to her. It served a higher purpose. The Church pointed beyond the individual to God's power and mercy at work through grace. The recognition affirmed that miracles are signs, not ends, inviting believers to deeper faith, gratitude, and trust in the loving action of God. Chapter 5. Lessons of Faith and Prayer. The miracle of Sister Julienne reminds us that faith does not reject medicine or human knowledge. Rather, it opens a deeper horizon when human ability reaches its limit. When doctors could no longer heal, faith did not deny reality, but entrusted it to God. True Christian faith respects reason, yet believes that God can act beyond what science alone is able to explain. Suffering is not always removed, even when prayer is sincere. Yet, when pain is offered with humility, it can become a place where God works silently and powerfully. In the life of Sister Julienne, illness purified trust rather than destroying it. Her suffering was not meaningless, but transformed into an offering, allowing grace to act where resistance and despair had no place. The Church teaches believers to live faith with sobriety and perseverance. Miracles are not proclaimed lightly, nor sought for emotional comfort. Discernment requires time, patience, and fidelity to truth. By waiting years before recognition, the Church protects faith from illusion and excess, inviting believers to trust not feelings or rumors, but the slow unveiling of truth guided by wisdom. Our Lady of Lourdes, gentle Mother of the suffering, teach us to surrender when our bodies grow weak and the future seems uncertain. When fear clouds our thoughts and strength fades, help us to rest in God's will. Lead us away from anxiety and toward quiet trust, so that even in darkness, we may remain anchored in hope. Walk beside all who carry serious illness, hidden pain, or deep exhaustion of spirit. Comfort those who feel forgotten, discouraged, or overwhelmed by long trials. Through your maternal presence, remind them that they are not alone. Obtain for them patience, courage, and the grace to endure each day with dignity and faith. Teach us to accept God's will, whether it brings healing or asks us to carry the cross longer. When prayers seem unanswered, help us to trust that grace is still at work. Grant us the humility to receive strength rather than solutions, and to believe that God's love remains faithful in every outcome. Lead us always to Jesus, your Son, source of true peace and salvation. In every circumstance of life, joyful or painful, help us remain rooted in hope and faithful love. May our lives, like Sister Julienne's, become quiet testimonies of trust. With you, we place everything into God's hands. Amen.